comics.fm. Back again, once again. JP here. Danielle, you don't get to do the finger guns. Maybe a second appearance, I'll hand you over this loaded finger gun.
Oh, watch where you're pointing that thing.
No, I'm in Florida now, so anything goes. You know how it goes. Danielle Tufano is, I would say, just to kind of take people back a little bit, 95.9 The River. That is the DuPage County, Aurora, Naperville in the Chicago suburbs. Danielle, for so many years, the voice of 95.9 The River. And you went from, this progression, it's kind of unheard of, from intern to like part-time to nights to, did you do middays?
I did.
Yeah. And then mornings and then program director, right?
Yeah. So I started off at the radio station as an intern. So I went to broadcasting school, and I went and just got an internship before they even like rolled out the internship program. I was like, screw this. I'm going to hop on this wagon before all these other, chumps start looking for internships.
Sounds very familiar, because I think I did that same thing. I'm like, why not start early before the chumps? Let's get the first chumps in.
Get ahead of the game. And so I went and I didn't even know where the river was located. I just knew that I liked the radio station. And I remember they called me in for the interview, and I was like, "Are you in Chicago? Where are you?" And they're like, "No, we're literally like, we're in this field that's across the street from you pull it, whatever, in Aurora," which was like down the street from my house, and I had no idea. And so
I didn't know either, because I remember listening to the river, and the funny thing is I would hear commercials for Illinois Center for Broadcasting. I would listen to the score, and they would put it on there. And then I remember, I think, inquiring, and they're like, Danielle Tufano from the river went here. I'm like, oh, okay. So I should probably get an internship in the suburbs near where I live, because it'd be a whole lot easier than going downtown every day, just like you.
To kind of rewind and pause for a second, that school, which first of all, I'm so thankful to that school, because that's what gave me the opportunity to get an internship, which is what gave me the ability to get my career in radio. But they whored me out so much because I was, one of the people that actually ended up with a career, and I went to school there, and then I stayed local, and I had this, kind of long-standing career. They put me on posters all the time. They used me as an example. They brought me back. I remember I taught there for a while. At first I wasn't available for this ceremony that they were doing, and they're like, no, we're gonna induct you into our Hall of Fame. And I was like,
oh, you're in the ICB, or now Illinois Media School Hall of Fame?
And I was like, well, now I have to go. And so I went, and they did this ceremony for like 5 minutes before Man Cow showed up, and then nobody cared about me. And then I went back like maybe 6 months later. There's no Hall of Fame. There's no wall. They just did that to get me there. I don't know. There's nothing there. There's nothing that even signifies. I don't know. I guess the next big star student, graduated, and that's who they focus on.
Radio is theater of the mind, and thus the Hall of Fame is theater of the mind as well, too.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah, so I started as an intern, and I remember I liked it there so much. Usually an internship, I think, is 10 weeks, and I just never left. I worked in the promotions department and production department. Production meaning like putting together all the commercials and stuff. And then Duddy, our production director, went on his honeymoon, and I filled in for him for 2 weeks as an intern. And I was like putting together these professional commercials and like beep, boop, beep, like pushing buttons. I had no idea what I was doing. But I did it. And then Matt Dubio, he was like, hey, I want you to fill in for me at night. And he just kept putting me into these different on-air shifts. Yeah. And I said, well, what do I go by? Like, everybody has a radio name. He was like, don't even bother. Like, we're just going to put you on for like 3 or 4 shifts. And so I never changed my name. I used my real name. Biggest mistake of my life, using my real name, especially as a female on the radio.
Well, but especially in your situation, when you have random people showing up at the station, hanging out in the parking lot to quote meet you and possibly chop you up and put you in a jar later on, you gotta sometimes protect yourself.
There was a guy that would send me flowers all the time, which is really nice. But it started off as like a dozen roses, then the next year it was 2 dozen roses, and then it was like 2 dozen roses in a teddy bear, and then there's 24 roses, a teddy bear, and chocolates. Like every year it got bigger, and I was like, next year there's going to be a human heart in here or something. Like I just was waiting, and then it stopped, and it always said like, I hope you like it, Nick, or I think his name was Nick. I hope you like it, Nick. That's all. I never met Nick. I have no idea who Nick is. Maybe he's watching. Thank you, Nick.
Maybe.
I always pictured in my mind that it was like an old sweet man in his living room that was like, I'm gonna send 24 roses now for her.
Well, did you end up getting like letters from people in prison at all, or no? Because I was talking to Joe Cicero about that, and that happens sometimes on the radio.
No, I don't think it from prison. There was there was one email that I got from a guy that was like obsessed with my feet. And he signed it as the tickler. I still have a picture. I still have a screenshot of that.
Tickler.
The tickler, just talking about how much he liked seeing my bare feet and like my toes and my sandals, which my feet aren't even. I have regular feet.
Well,
I'll take them out right now and show you if you want.
All feet are gross, by the way. Here's mine. All feet are.
Are you wearing pants? Like,
no, I don't wear pants. This is like Zoom calls. We don't wear pants. All feet are gross. When were you showing feet though? Because you're on the radio. Did you think like, you know what? I can't get by with just my voice. I'm going to have to do something extra.
I was the original feet fans or whatever, feet finder or whatever.
You're pretending
probably like a broadcast somewhere he saw me. I have no idea.
Oh, and you used to do those vacations, right, with listeners where you'd be at the beach. That's probably where,
That was a whole other story. I bet. Some of those stories need to stay on the beach.
Well, that's what they say. Danielle, we're going to be talking about this, one of my favorite comics, Saga, pretty soon. So definitely stay tuned for that. And because this is comics.fm, I'm basically making radio people read with pictures, and that's what I love. I'm going to have to get you a sticker too, because normally I send the comic to you. And I'll tell you what, comics.fm, as big of an empire as I've become over the last 6 months, I can't compete with Amazon. It would have cost me, Danielle, $10.50 to mail this comic with this sticker to you and get there in 3 days, or have Amazon do it in like 7 hours for $8. Can't compete.
Yeah. So I'll say, when I asked what the concept of this was, and you said you read a comic and then we talk about it on a podcast, yes. I was literally thinking a comic like that I read in the newspaper, like Archie and Jughead.
Oh, well, I mean, sort of. I mean, but more. I mean,
So I got the thing in the mail, and I was like, it was right around my birthday, and I was like, somebody sent me something for my birthday. And I picked it up, the package, and I was like, somebody sent me a book, like a full-on book for my birthday. This is not like I was imagining. Like,
yeah. Well, I will say this: a couple of things. One, clearly you're not a fan of the show. That's number one. Because if you were a fan of the show, you would know the format and know what's going on here. That's okay. You're a big star. You're like, I would say top 7 as far as stars I've had on the show.
How many of these episodes have you done?
I think 8. And Patrick O'Hara is one below you. And so, but I knew that you are the first female guest I've had on this show, first off. So that's number one. I was saving this comic because, my wife reads this one too. And I'm like, you know what? I'm calling this one a girl comic a little bit. And main character's female. It's a great comic. And I'm thinking, okay, Danielle, because there is some, R-rated stuff in here. And I'm like, Danielle can handle it. She's not going to get offended. I mean, she sold feet pics. You know what I mean? She's been through this. So I thought it'd be a good comic. So we're going to get into Saga, but I will say I applaud you for not only reading it, not being a comic nerd, because that's what we're trying to do here is show that anyone can get into this. But this is 6 issues here. Most of the time I give people one comic book, okay, like a little floppy you'd see on the shelf somewhere, and it's like 20 some pages. This one is a full-on what they call either a trade paperback where they collect 6 together roughly, or a graphic novel. You read the whole thing, so thank you for doing this and being a part of this.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, it was like a full-on book, but I spent like my Saturday night. That's what I did.
Well, I was assuming you didn't have a date Saturday night, so I thought, you know what, curl up with a good X-rated comic book.
Keep coming.
That's right.
One thing that you didn't mention before, though, as far as how we know each other.
Yeah.
we did work together at the river, but part of what your job was at the river was to also make me look good because you were our videographer. Do you remember all the great videos that we made?
I will say I'm extremely thankful they're still out there on the River's website.
Oh, no.
They're great. And so every now and then, when I want a good laugh, I'll say, let's Google up. Let's type in on YouTube 95.9 The River Danielle. That way you'll get just the river video of Danielle. And the classic one that everyone loves is the "What's in my trunk" bit that you did.
Oh, no.
And it's like you had a bunch of garbage because you always had like just random junk in your car, and you're like, I'm going to give away a sweater, and it was whatever was in your car. So you did all these like shenanigans on video. They were the best because I go there filming McKay, and it was okay, but it was kind of a little by the book, a little just do the question, record the thing, put the thing, whatever.
I think it was the junk in my trunk, right?
Junk in my trunk, yeah. But whenever I was filming you, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, and there were times where a later program director, Matt Mellon, was like, so you had a 5-minute video of you and Danielle opening boxes. And I'm like, and I go, uh-huh. And he's like, what was the point of that? I'm like, just having fun.
And you remember the one video where you found out that I had never seen Star Wars and you were trying to explain Star Wars to me?
Well, and I will tell. So a couple of things. You did a podcast where you watched Star Wars for the first time like a year ago or so.
Did you see me mention you?
I was mentioned. Oh, I got to look that up. I must have missed that. I'm gonna have to watch
I said that I worked with somebody at the river who, up until you explained it to me, I thought the Dagobah system was a bus full of Italian people, like a Dago bus.
Dago bus. That's good. I don't remember that. I'm going to watch that, but I don't remember that one. But I do remember you saying that Obi-Wan Kenobi was a, quote, robot. You said, Obi-Wan Kenobi's a robot. I'm like, well, in the movies, he's an old man, but he's a Jedi Knight, and you've seen later on. You're like, no, I think he's a robot. I'm like, I agree to disagree. But then you got into Star Wars, sort of. You watched it. And so I'll tell you what, Saga, a lot of people say that this comic has sort of some Star Wars type influence because, in a sense, it does create a world. Star Wars created a world. Perfect segue. Thank you, Danielle. You're a radio pro. Star Wars created a world where there's humans and aliens, all of their species, and it's all of the classic tales you might expect, but it's in a sci-fi kind of epic adventure. Well, Saga kind of operates in that same realm. It's an amazing story. Brian K. Vaughan is the writer. Fiona Staples is the artist. And basically, they created a universe. And this could be a movie, could be a TV show. I think he has said before, I'm not going to do any of that because I want to kind of keep somewhat of the, how much you call it, like integrity, but just the medium of where it was created. But there's just characters and things that are happening. And I guess you could also say Star Wars, maybe a little bit of Romeo and Juliet because of you've got, which we're going to get into the plot in a second, got Game of Thrones, I guess, for people with, the families at war. So I got to ask you first, Danielle, did you like this comic? This is your first time you probably read a comic book, right?
It's the first time that I really read a comic book. I'm really not a science fiction-y person.
Okay.
And I was surprised that you recommended this because you knew that I wasn't really into Star Wars. You knew that wasn't necessarily my thing. But I was like, you know what? Maybe he invited me in for the porn aspect of it. Because there was a lot of like the X-rated.
Well, I mean, to be fair, you're saying porn. I'm saying a married couple that are expressing love, right?
Excuse me. When they introduced... You're going to make me go back. I don't even know if I can show this without just blurring out the whole screen. There was that whole place that they went to when they took the will there. And it was like just. Oh,
it's basically like, it's the sextillion. It's kind of like Vegas with anything goes.
There was just dongs hanging out everywhere.
Yeah. Well, there's this place where there's these sex slaves and he feels bad. So this guy at the will is essentially a bounty hunter and he's hired to take some people out, which we'll talk about in a second. He has a heart though. He sees a young girl, is like, I'm not gonna do it. This is awful. So he sees a sex slave, he's like, I want to try to free her. So ultimately it was a good thing, what you saw.
The TV had people, you are introduced to them while they're like making little TVs.
Well, listen, too hot for TV, as they say. Yeah. So basically the way this works here, let me give you a quick overview for those that don't know. So this is Alana and this is Marko. Okay. The way it works, Alana is from a planet called Landfall. Marko is from the moon near Landfall called Wreath. His whole race has horns, and they are magic users, almost like Native American type, or even like Latin America, kind of that style. Everything's better, their language. And then over here, a more of a warlike race. They all have wings, though, over on Landfall. And the wing people don't like the horn people, and the horn people don't like the wing people. And would you know it, when she's watching over him and he's captured, they get together, and all of a sudden they make a baby. And that's what starts. Just goes to show you, kids ruining everything. You know what?
And I took a note that the entire storyline started with her screaming, "Am I shitting? It feels like I'm shitting," and that was her giving birth to the baby.
Yeah, I was also thinking, it opens with a bang. It opens with, I
think the bang happened before the start of the story.
That's true. That's how that works. You want to go back. So the one cool thing that happens in Saga throughout the entire story, and I believe they're on issue number like 80 now. This is 1 through 6 right here. So the entire story, you're watching it unfold, but you also see this little writing. I don't know if you can catch on the camera here. You see little writing along with the word bubbles. So that basically is Hazel, the daughter, writing this story from the future. We don't know how old she is. She could be 20, 30, 40, 50, who knows? She's talking about being born, and then a toddler, and then a little kid, and throughout her life. So you start to see the story through her eyes. She's the narrator telling you things that are happening while you're also watching and reading things happening too.
Yeah, so you're kind of seeing it from two different perspectives almost.
Yeah, you are, because you're in the moment of things that are happening, and then this narrator, almost like is How I Met Your Mother. They have a narrator in that show. Is that how that?
Yeah, but it's the father.
Oh, the father. Okay.
The character of it.
Yeah, I never really get, but like that kind of, or like the Wonder Years. I think you said the narrator. So you're having that narrator, but it is the daughter, and the story is about her parents, essentially on the run from the get-go. She's born, they're on the run. Why? Because both of their people hate each other and want to destroy each other. Mm-hmm. At this point, it's like, well, they need to be either captured or killed or take the baby. So there's a robot kingdom, almost like a British kind of style, because they are royalty. They're aligned with the people on Landfall, and it's their job to say, we can't have this. So at that point, they send Prince Robot IV, the TV head guy there. They send him out to go take them both out, capture them, kill them, whatever. And then the people from Wreath, they're like, well, we can't have this either. So they hire a freelancer, a bounty hunter, the Will, and another one at the same time to try to kill him at that point.
Yeah. And then it turns out that the two freelancers were at one point in love, right?
They were, yeah. The Will looks like a regular old dude, you know what? Standard human. And then the Stalk.
Pretty hot, actually, kind of.
Yeah, good looking guy. Then the Stalk, the other freelancer, it's like a spider, a bunch of arms, a lot going on there. It's kind of cool because the way they have bounty hunters in this universe, unlike Star Wars or some other types of stories, where they're almost a little bit like they're known, like they're like known outlaws. Like they have these names like the Will, the Stalk, and there's some other ones. They're not just like Joe. They actually have this registered, I'm a registered freelancer. It's like, oh, it's a big deal. They wanted to have that point hammered home of, if someone's hiring a freelancer, like something important's going down.
Well, it's like as soon as their name was said, somebody knew, oh, it's a freelancer. Like it's just known in the world.
Yeah. So that's kind of a big part of it there. I wanted to ask you from a character standpoint. So the Will's sidekick is a cat called Lying Cat. And basically when you are lying cat will say lying. And so it's hilarious.
But like, what's the point of that though? I was trying to think the whole time, like, what was the point of adding that into the storyline? There was like no significance of it, I feel like.
Well, I mean, it may come to play later on. We're in this first 6 issues here. And yeah, to get kind of an idea of how that happens there, essentially Lying Cat understands English and understands whatever the language is there, and will say lying when you're not. So that could be useful if he's talking to somebody, he wants to know who's lying, lie detector, that kind of thing.
I wish I had one of those, man.
Yeah.
Because even when I know somebody's lying and I can't call them out, I'm like, gosh, I wish I had something like that just to be like, all right, Cat, Do your thing.
Lying like, no, you're saying this. So not Danielle, now you don't work in radio anymore, but now you're working for the city of Aurora, correct? Mm-hmm. They're like, Ms. Tufano, we just do not have the budget to install blah, 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 and blah, blah. And you're like, oh, really? Lying.
I will say, I know that I'm probably in the minority here, but the Will was my favorite character of the entire story.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, he does a good thing. He does a chivalrous thing. He's like, I'm going to this, resort where anything goes, you want to party. Well, maybe finding a prostitute might be what you want to do if they're of an adult nature. But if it's a kid, he's like, come on, I'm not doing that. So yeah, he looked out for the girl.
I think even more so than that. Well, that obviously, because when he first went there and that guy took him to, I think it was the core where the 6-year-old girl was. I think that's where he went deeper into the core.
Yeah. Right. Like, it's like this is where our top customers get to go.
And I was expecting somebody like Megan Fox when he walked in, and then it was like a 6-year-old girl. I was like, what does John have me reading? What? I was about to burn the book, and then he smushed his head, and I was okay.
Yeah.
Keep reading.
Saga it's a good story. It's got good people in it. And, the Will did a good thing there. Obviously, he is hired to do a job. So, if he encountered Alana and Marko and Hazel, he probably would kill them or capture them or do something.
But even beyond that, he had a job to do. But I feel like he was a hopeless romantic. And I feel like in storylines, that's who I always that's who I always kind of
identify with. Yeah. Because he had a relationship with the other freelancer, the Stalk. And I think at one point he even said, I thought maybe you and I could get back together and we raise her. Right. Yeah.
Even though he was heartbroken before but he had this hard outer shell. And I think that's what kind of attracted me to his character, that hard outer shell where he would kick your ass, but then inside he was soft and loving. And I always kind of am attracted to characters like that. And then he did the right thing with the 6-year-old prostitute.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, the Will has a heart in this one, and he's got a great sidekick, Lion Cat. We could all use a Lion Cat on there.
He likes animals.
Yeah.
So I could marry him right now. Really.
There we go. Well, you've only read the first 6 issues, so we don't know how other things he's done, but as of right now, could be a Mr. Tufano, possibly.
Yeah, okay.
Or you can be a Danielle Will.
Will.
However that would work. Over time, so this story, like I mentioned.
First name the, last name Will? Is that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
The Will.
You'd have to call him the. The thing with this comic, so I got into this one in 2018, I believe. And that was right when they went on a hiatus. So the Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples, they did 55 issues of this comic. So there were about 12 to 13 of these size trade paperbacks. There was also 3 larger collected editions, like they call them omnibuses or compendium, like larger hardcover, And that was the story. And they said, it's not over. We're just taking a break. And it was right around 2018. The one cool thing that happens in this book, so Hazel, the main character essentially, is the child of Alana and Marko. She's born in the first issue. As the series goes on, she's aging in real life. So when the series goes on for 3 years in real life, like our turn, 3 years of issues, she's 3. So it's kind of going on. They took a break in 2018 and then regrouped, I think, in 2021. So 3 years, there was no Saga issues at all. They just, stopped. She was 3. It was like, here's what happened in the last 3 years. She's now 3 years older. So it's kind of cool that in real life terms, they do take a lot of breaks now. It's kind of hard to keep up. The people that read this comic from the beginning, it came out in 2012 originally. The people that read this comic from the beginning, the diehards, I didn't even know about it then, but they're reading it in 2012 and they're reading it's going on and on for 6 years. Huge cliffhanger. And I think issue 55. And that's when they take a 3-year break. So I can only imagine the people that actually have been reading it month by month. And they're like, oh my God, you're going to leave me hanging. Whereas I came in, I heard about it. It was during COVID. I think I got really more into comics during COVID. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to buy them all and read them all. And then I was like, Heather and I we both read it. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And they said, hey, new issue in a couple of months. I was like, oh, sweet. Meanwhile, everybody online's like, finally. And they do take a lot of breaks now. So I think I'm actually going to pause, wait till they get a bunch out maybe enough for 12 or 15 more, and then read all those again after this, because this is the perfect comic to read straight through. I don't think it does well on a read one, wait a while. Read one, wait a while. I mean, you got to read all 6 in a row. It would have been weird if you just stopped at 1 or 2, not knowing what's happening,
Yeah. So how long typically goes in between each chapter then?
So most comics are monthly. Most comics, they have a run, like a story arc, and usually it'll be one writer, one artist, and they'll kind of continue a story. It might be 6 issues or 12 issues, and they usually will collect them in these like trade paperbacks together, so you don't have to buy the individual issues. Usually monthly. Now, something might happen where they say, hey, there's so-and-so is going to be working on another book or working on a movie or something. They're going to take a break. This one, I mean, I'm pretty sure it went straight through from 2012 to 2018, and then they had that 3-year break. Ever since they started it back up, it's been hard to keep up because it feels like 4 issues, a break, 4 issues and a break. So it's kind of hard for me. There's certain comics that I can pick up and read anytime, and it's like they'll give you a little, most comics will give you a little like, what's going on? Like, oh, Batman in the last issue, happened. Okay, no problem. I get right into it. This is a little different. This would be like pausing a movie, like 38 minutes in, and then saying, Danielle, in 3 years, we're going to pick it up after 38 minutes in. And it's kind of hard to do.
That's tough. Yeah, that's interesting.
So did you like it?
I did. I mean, I did like it. I don't know that means that I'm necessarily going to like get into comics all of a sudden, but
this is what they call a comic book for people who don't like comic books.
I did read that online. I will say I was thinking about this because I had a feeling you were going to ask me if I liked it or not, or if I would continue reading. I really did like the character the Will, and I think that if they developed his character more, or if he was a larger part of future chapters, that I would be inclined to read more about his character.
Okay.
Because I was really interested in his character.
Yeah, you will see him more. You will see the Will more. He's kind of like, even though there's a part where they say, are there multiple freelancers on the job? And they're like, oh yeah, like we're sending a lot of people out there. It's kind of like, there was one Star Wars tie-in, which you may or may not get this one, but I mean, the concept of sending all the bounty hunters out. So you've heard of Boba Fett. Have you heard of that name before? There's Boba Fett, there's IG-88, there's Dengar, there's a bunch of bounty hunters that are all trying to capture Han Solo and do so. It's kind of storyline wise, in general, it's like, if you think about it, if somebody's that much of a target and you're trying to capture somebody or kill somebody, whoever can get them is going to get the dough. So why not? He's just the most well-known and probably the most, I mean, he's the biggest, story-wise, he's the most, what's the word I'm looking at? Prolific. You're going to see him most often of all the freelancers. So I would say continue it if you want to see more of the Will.
So then a question for you, if for comics like this, does this rank in your top 10?
Yeah, this comic is in my top 5 of all time.
Okay.
I love it. I think it's so good. And when me rereading this back, so I reread this because I wanted to, be fresh with it. And it's kind of like watching movies with twists and turns the second time. And it's been a while because now I'm reading it and I'm reading into things that Hazel says as she's narrating. I'm like, oh, of course she said that now, whereas I would have never gotten that the first time. So I love it. I think it's not only is it a great overall story, but it kind of, for me, got me back into comics, these kind of stories, because I don't really care that much about superhero books. I really like other things. So stories like this, they may call it like a sci-fi opera or whatever they want to call it, or other genres, like movies at different genres. So for me, I like that kind of stuff more.
Okay.
So good. Thanks for reading it. Thanks for checking it out and giving it a go.
You want me to repay you for sending it to me? Like, should I value or?
I would say I was repaid by experience, because let's chat about that for a second. When I was just a boy, older than you though, but just getting into radio, and you're like, hey, I'm Danielle, nice to meet you. I'm like, oh, I know who you are, because I heard you in the morning, and you're on the morning show. You're the producer with Gene O'Brien in the morning show. And I'm like, Danielle went to ICB and got on the river. I could do that. I mean, come on. And then she went back and taught at ICB, and I'm like, I could do that. So I kind of followed in your footsteps from a radio career standpoint.
Well, look at that. Before you know it, we'll be working side by side. You'll be here with me.
That's right. I'll be trying to take down all of your projects. Be like, there's a center for kids who don't read so well. We don't have the budget. And then you say, lying cat, is he telling the truth? I don't know.
Open up a comic book store in Aurora.
That's right. You're going to get me the funding for it and make sure that goes through. Let me ask you, so going from radio for 15 plus years, at least, to the sort of, you're still serving the people, right? Forever you were serving the people from entertainment and news. You always made sure to align yourself with the community anyway. You're always part of all the charity events, things going on. Now you're just doing it like all the time. Does it feel like this is a never ending remote that you're on?
That's an interesting question. Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I'm a totally different person when I'm not working. Yes. You have to kind of turn it on when you're at work. You have to you have to understand that you're representing a brand, just like you did in radio, that it's more than yourself. It's more than just you out there. So when I worked in radio, I was not only representing the radio station, but I was usually out representing a client or a sponsor, or even as when I was the program director, I was representing my staff and the entire radio station.
And your own personal brand. There's the Danielle brand, there was the River brand, there was the client's brand. You're conscious of all that stuff, and now you're representing the city.
Yeah. And I even did that in other jobs that I've had here and there. What's crazy is that I have no problem now speaking to you and having a conversation with you, or when I was on the radio, knowing that, turning on a microphone and there would be 100,000 people listening at that point, or getting in front of a crowd and, hosting an event or emceeing an event for 5,000 people. That's never been an issue for me. After you get used to it, and that's more of like work Danielle, but like personal Danielle, when I'm not working and I don't have a job to do, I very much prefer to be in the shadows. I very much prefer to be in relationships, whether it's friendships or whatever, with people who prefer to talk more, and I prefer to listen more, just because that's who I am personally. But when I'm working, I guess I'm able to turn it on more. I'm very shy when reserved, I guess, is more of the word when I'm not working.
On the previous episode of Comics I'm with Joe Cicero. Do you know Joe? You know him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I told him that he's always on at all times, and
always. My God.
Yeah. And I'm like, you could run for mayor, you could do whatever you want. Like for me, I'm more like you, where I'd be in the supermarket and all of a sudden like, JP, what's going on? I'm like, oh, and it's like, I don't want to be rude, but it's not because I'm not getting paid. It's more just, this is my time. It's like when you catch a celebrity at the airport and then you get pissed off because they didn't take a selfie with you when they're just trying to get their bag. And now all of a sudden you're like, you know what? That one time I met Ray Romano, what a dick. He didn't take I don't know. And like, he didn't take like, well, yeah, but you're invading their space. And so people think, and I've always said this about radio more than TV. Radio gives people the perceived access that we're best friends, we go way back, because they listen to you every day. That doesn't happen on TV. You don't think the TV weather guy is your best friend. You watch him every night, but you don't think he's your best friend.
Tom Skilling was my best friend.
Yeah, was. Did he pass?
No, but he's not a weatherman anymore.
Oh, he acknowledged he doesn't want to be your friend. So now it's like he was your best friend. But like, on the radio, if they listen to you every single day, they know everything about you in the window that you give them, but you don't know anything about them. And so at a remote or an event, you always go out of your way. You take pictures, you talk to people, you always did all that stuff. But that's the switch, right? So the switch is like, Danielle, go on. You're like, all right, I'm on.
Yeah.
And then turn the switch off. I want to go away.
It was a little different for me. It wasn't necessarily if people actually still do sometimes, like, recognize my name, and I've been on a radio for 3-4 years, but people still will recognize my name or recognize my face and say something. And it has nothing to do when I was in radio or even after radio with like, oh, this is my time, or this is, it was more of like a level of uncomfortableness that like, am not like, it was so bizarre to me that people thought that I was like on a different level than them. Like it was like I woke up and just talked into a microphone for a living, and like there were people that were like performing surgery, and
Right.
there were like people that were like mathematicians and like worked outside in the heat, and you think I'm so cool that I literally woke up, in most days, especially during COVID when I worked from home, worked in my pajamas.
Yeah.
The fact that people thought I was cool because of what I did, like it almost made me really uncomfortable. So and because I was such a quiet and reserved person, and still am, it does make me uncomfortable when people try to talk to me about when I was on radio or on the radio, or if they said, oh, you are famous, or you're this or this. It makes me uncomfortable because I don't think that. Like it makes me uncomfortable that people think that I would. But I will say, when we did those broadcasts and we did those appearances, I always tried to make those my time to interact with people, because they started, certain people, there was a small portion of people, most people understood it, at least for me, but there was a small people that took it too far, and they would try to find out where I lived, and they would try to contact my family, and they would try to be take it one step too far. And so, you know, when I lived alone, and it just got to the point where it was like way too uncomfortable, so I had to take steps to.
Well, that's hard. Like, and that's a level that I would never even think about. It's just straight up the female on-air personality versus a male, because we've never had that, you know, that's a complete other level that you have to concern yourself with, the weirdness factor, making you uncomfortable and all that. But I would say this, and I'm not just saying this because we're friends and we're on this, but you never had an ego. Like, you, at no point did you have an ego. And there were times where, you know, at different I mean, I didn't necessarily work with you in other on-air jobs, but, you know, I'm at an event and I'm like, why is this not, you know, and you get mad. Like, you never got mad. You never had an ego. You never yelled at anyone. And that, I think, is a big part of it, because you've always felt that I'm just kind of a fan, regular person. And many people, when they get into radio and they achieve some level of success, it does go to your head a little bit. It just, you can be the nicest person in the world, but
you have to a little bit. You have to have somewhat of an ego. Yeah.
Because, you know, the idea that to think that something you say is important enough and all that, but you always were just the every person, whatever, you know, talking to anybody. And, you know, and part of it, people know that. Like, listeners, they have a bullshit meter too. And so they don't like to be, just like when we talked about using your real name and all that, they don't want to be tricked either. They want a real person. And you would talk about real things, talk about, you know, family, things going on. Like, that's the stuff people love. And that also made you successful in what you were doing. It just is the double-edged sword, right? Because now it's access and know everything about you, and, oh, we're best friends. And meanwhile, it's like, you know, the person who was more reserved on the air, who didn't say a whole lot, they don't get bothered with that stuff. So the more you open up, the more success you have, but also the more it could be uncomfortable. You know?
Yeah. And I'll say, you know, 90% of the listeners understood the boundaries and they were fine, but there was a small percentage that we had to get, like, corporate involved or the police involved, or like, it was just, they made it not fun, and they made me scared sometimes.
There are scary moments at all times, I think, you know, that people don't always think about, whether it is scary with interaction with listeners, that maybe a situation might occur, or random strangers, or at an event. And those are things that nobody ever really thinks about unless you're in it. And you had some, you know, weird ones at times, and it's uncomfortable.
But, you know, we're talking about like one end of the spectrum here, but there's a whole other end of the spectrum too, where some of the listeners ended up being some of the best people in the world. Like, I still hang out with some of the friends that I made from being listeners of the radio station. Even when I left the river, we used to go on those trips to Mexico or Punta Cana. We formed this little group of a few of us, and we went on our own trips to Mexico or Punta Cana, like, you know, little mini trips. And I officiated somebody's wedding that was a listener. I just did, you know, I still see, we get together from time to time out on Lake Holiday. It's like there's these groups of people that have actually become friends that started as listeners. They, you know, would come out when I worked in Naperville. They come here to Aurora. And so it's most of them, you are the positive stories and the great friendship stories, and they're good, solid people. So it's the weird ones that kind of stick in your head.
Well, yeah, and you've got, I would say, a good point about the both ends of the spectrum, because you have people, you have, let's say, 80% in the middle, then you got the awesome 10 that you hang out with personally, and then like the crazy 10, And I think that's also a testament to how well you engaged people on the air and at events, the fact that you're even doing that. I would never do that. I had one guy wanted to go to Vegas with me. He wanted to invite me to Vegas with him. He wanted me to go to his kid's birthday party and barbecues, all these things. And, because a couple times I got a little close, and it's like, I go to, it was an event, and this guy's buying, beers for the whole table. Now it's like, hey, since you know me, can I get some tickets? Like, oh.
Yeah. Yes. There's always something.
So because of one pitcher of beer, you get Eagles tickets. Is that the trade-off?
And it's crazy too, when I left radio, how many friends I suddenly didn't have when I didn't have access to the concert tickets and the Mexico trips for free and this, and it's like, where'd all my friends go?
Yeah, they're not there.
Go?
I remember, so when I started at the River, that's so funny you bring that up. It was right when I think Facebook started, and you were one of my like original Facebook friends. I'm like, this is a big thing here. Everyone's connecting with people from school. And I got friended from a kid from high school that was a bully to everybody. He was just a jerk to everybody. And he starts talking to me. I'm like, maybe we're adults now. It's been whatever, 10 years. And he's like, Danielle Tufano? I'm like, yeah. He's like, oh, she's single? Or I'm like, hey man, like first let's start with knocking my books over. Let's start with the knocking the books over thing. Then we'll talk. Then I'll tell you what Danielle likes, and you can send her a creepy letter or something.
What did I like then? Oh, you know what I like then.
What?
What kind of guy I like then?
Well, you like a guy's named Mike usually. But you always had that sort of. You would put things out there on the radio. And I think a lot of people, especially women, don't usually do that. So I know you said, a regret at some point, but I mean, obviously you're safe, all good now. But part of this, I truly think a lot of these things that you did on the radio helped you get to these kind of community roles you have now, because it makes you more of that. You're doing it now just without a microphone in front of you. That's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It teaches you a lot. And I speak with a lot of my former coworkers that are in radio that are looking to exit radio, and they say, my skills don't transfer. I don't know what to do. Like, all I've ever done is radio. I've talked into a microphone. And it's like, no, you've engaged the community. You're a public speaker. You've raised awareness for stakeholders, meaning, your sponsors. You've built relationships. You've done that. There's so many. It's just a matter of how it's much more than talking into a microphone. Like you just have to know how to word it. And
I mean, sometimes you're reminding people the stuff that they did. The thing with that I noticed is the people that didn't take radio seriously, half-assed everything, and got through the liner jocks, as they would call them, just reading where the words are, didn't really want to do any community things, didn't want to interact unless, is it paid? If it's not paid, I'm not doing it. All the minimum stuff, those are the people that do have a hard time, I think, going into the, quote, real world, because they didn't take advantage of the situation they were in. However, someone like you or me or many people that we know, if you were building your brand the whole time and everything you worked for and all the equity with listeners and associates, people in radio and outside in the community, you built that all up. So of course you can transfer it. If you were just a half-assed voice tracker, it wouldn't have all applied though,
I feel like you're boosting my ego so much. Do you think I still have concert tickets? Because I don't. I don't have anything.
You don't have like Last Fling tickets,
It's free to get in. So yeah, come on by.
Who do you got? You got Collective Soul this year? Who's going to be there?
Not even.
So I think it's hilarious that, you've built a great career in radio. You mentioned you were giving back from a school standpoint when you were teaching as well. What advice would you give somebody who wants to either get into radio or TV, or even just say, you know what, I don't need all that, but I just want to do my own content creation? What advice would you give that kind of person?
I guess learning to be a jack of all trades is kind of important. I knew when I went to Illinois Center for Broadcasting, now Illinois Media School, I knew I just wanted to do radio. I was like, forget TV. I don't care about TV.
Yeah.
And that's a huge regret of mine, because even knowing the basic skills of video editing would have been so helpful in so many different aspects. Like literally every industry having video editing skills is like usually on a job description.
Somebody needs it no matter what. Well, the funny, in that time, like mid 2000s, you're like, radio is radio and TV's TV. And never shall the two meet. And meanwhile, everything is video. Every podcast, this is a podcast and it's video. Everything's video now. So yeah, good point.
Yeah, and you're going to edit out all the times I picked my nose and burped and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I
farts,
yeah. If it's radio that you're looking to get into, maybe find a sugar daddy or a sugar mama because it might not
you're gonna get real now. Everyone, all the other guests were like, do it, and then Danielle's like,
don't get me wrong, it was some of the best years of my life, and if I could, people always ask me if I miss radio, if I would get back into it, and if the reason I got out of it is because it just wasn't stable enough for me. I didn't feel like my job was secure. I wasn't making enough money. Those were the two big reasons why I quit, and some personality issues too. But I could have. Sure. I did have another opportunity when I got the job here at the City of Aurora. It was between this and a huge opportunity in Chicago radio that would have been life-changing and would have been something that I dreamed of doing, but the stability wasn't there. The money wasn't quite there. And I just, but if I was, maybe married to a doctor or something, where that might not have been an issue, I don't know that I would be here right now. Yeah. I would probably be in radio work, doing something that I love my job right now, but I would be doing something completely different right now. So it really was that job security and payment thing. So when I say sugar daddy or sugar mama, I'm kind of joking, but not really joking. No. You have to be prepared. I should say be prepared for a job that, while no job is ever guaranteed, it is very common in radio just for them to say, we didn't make our sales budget, we're just going to wipe out our entire programming department. That happens quite often. And I was very lucky that I, made it 16 years without that happening. And probably because I always agreed to not take a raise. I didn't, other than anytime I got promoted to a new position, I did not get a raise for 16 years. Wow. The only time I ever made more money is when I got a new job. Other than that, I never.
Well, I don't know if it was that, you're making it sound like a gullible thing. I don't think that. I think it was just, you're just so agreeable and you're a team player with everything. The point being, that opportunity downtown could have been, like you said, life-changing for a year, and then it could have went away. Yeah. And then you're back on the thing again.
And I guess too, being able to manage your expectations for work-life balance. When I worked in radio, I focused everything that I had on radio. And I think I probably passed up a few opportunities to be in relationships. Yeah. Where I knew at some point that, besides from the financial and stability reasons, I knew that, all right, I'm ready to, at some point soon, maybe get married, maybe talk about a family. And so I knew that something in my life needed to change, and I knew that probably wouldn't happen if I still worked in radio.
Radio, that's a good point. And, I'd say just from an advice standpoint, you covered a lot, but from a living a regular life, it's hard to do that. So if you already have a regular life and then you get into radio, like I did, then it's easier to digest. It's easier for me to do radio gigs part-time and have other things going on. But you did devote your life to it for 16 years. So I could see how that would be something there. So
I think the final piece of advice that I would give is to never burn a bridge unless you know that you never want to cross it again. And I think that for the most part, there's some people that I had some personality differences with. Yeah. One even being the last person that I was on the air with. But I think if I ran into him, I would have a friendly conversation with him, and I don't have an issue with him only because of things that I've learned since I've left that weren't necessarily all on him. But the person that I worked for, I would burn that bridge in a second because I found out it was, mostly him kind of being the puppet and telling me things and telling him things. And kind of pinning all of us employees against each other. So like, that's a bridge that I would be happy to burn and never have to cross again. Where, you know, it's because in radio, you never know who you're going to work for, and you never know who you're going to work with, and everybody calls everybody. And so it's like, hey, you worked with John before. Tell me what he's like. And it could be somebody that you worked with for 2 weeks, and maybe you were having a bad 2 weeks, and then that, you know.
It's not, I always say radio is not an industry, it's a community, because you see, everybody knows everybody. You see the same people on the way up as you do on the way down. Right. And you're 100% right with that. And it's also a testament to you and the things you've done, because, you know, Danielle from 10 years ago wouldn't have burned any bridge and would say, I never, I want to please everybody. And now you're like, you know what? I got a pretty stacked resume now, and a lot of people know me, and I got a lot of confidence that maybe you didn't have way back when. So you're like, nah, I'm the shit. I could do something else.
And it's really only that one person, and it's only because I recognized what they did to the radio station and what they did to pin all of the employees against each other, and like literally blew the place up. And so I don't really care about him.
Yeah, no worries. All good. So great advice. Appreciate it, Danielle. Going back to the comic world for a moment here. Yeah. If you were a superhero, okay, so pretend, you know, everyone's talking about the new Superman movie, and Fantastic Four is out now. This episode is going to be coming out on Wednesday, on the 30th. So, I mean, these movies keep coming out. Comic movies coming out all the time. If you were a superhero and you were in a movie, what would be your thing? What's your power? What's your name? And who is going to play you?
I think I would want to fly.
Everybody wants to fly.
Well, I think it's because I when I was a kid, like a little kid, I was so obsessed with birds. I don't know why, but I remember reading that in my baby book.
Okay.
Which I don't know. I can't find my baby book now because I asked my mom for it a couple weeks ago, and she either lost it or burned it or sold it. I don't know, because we were talking about birds, and I was like, I remember that I read in my baby book that I was like obsessed with birds, and so I was trying to find it, and I can't. But which is interesting though, because I'm deathly afraid of heights, but I feel like
flying could be, yeah. Also, I think flying and then randomly pooping on people. I think you'd be into that, actually. So I can see you as a bird, you know.
I don't know what that means.
Like us, Sweet D, and It's Always Sunny. They always call her a bird, you know. So
yeah. Was that you that used to call me Sweet D? Somebody used to call me Sweet D, and I can't remember who it was.
I don't think it was, but we had D for a long time, because DTV was your video thing, you know. And so flying, I think, So would you have so once you get somewhere, you're flying, okay, do you have wings, or do you have like a cape or like jetpack?
I don't even think, I just think I'm like, and I would just go.
Just shoot, okay, like Superman style. And then when you get there, do you know how to fight, or are you just gonna be like, I'm here, what do we do?
Well, yeah, I would hope. I mean, what am I going to just fly and then get the crap beat out of me once I get there? I mean, flying and fighting.
Okay, so you want to fly somewhere and kick some ass and save the day.
I don't know who would play me though. Like maybe somebody you wouldn't expect, like Steve Buscemi or whatever.
Oh, you're a guy? Like
I don't know. It's 2025.
That's true. Anything could happen, right? You know, I could see like a comedic actress playing you. You know, like a Jennifer Lawrence or something. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, if you want Steve Buscemi, whatever. If you want to have the eyes and all that stuff, that's fine.
Well, what about you? What power would you have, and who would play you?
We don't talk about this. This is my show to interview people, so we don't do it. When you get your own podcast, you can ask me those questions, okay?
Okay.
What's the name of your superhero? So you're flying and you're fighting, and so what's your name? Is it like a Danielle variant type name or something? Is this your chance to finally go by something else so you don't have to use your name for all of your stalkers?
I don't know. I'm so bad at this. Like, I feel bad for like my future baby, because I'm going to name it something like Tasmanian Devil. And then I'm going to be like, oh gosh, I'm going to change the name after 6 months.
So, okay, maybe like a Danielle variant.
This is a lot of pressure. I can't even think of what. Well,
that's why I gave you the questions a couple of days
I was going to think. I actually should. Maybe Fly Girl.
Fly Girl. Okay. Yeah, you could be.
I didn't read that question.
Like from In Living Color, the Fly Girls? That was.
Yeah, I totally read it the wrong way. I just like show up in like running pants and
right. Fly girl's here, and then it's like Running Man, and it's like, wait, what's she doing? Like, I don't know.
A tracksuit.
I like that. It works out well. You mentioned about all the years you spent in radio, and you've done a lot. You've talked to people. Was there a celebrity you met in person or interviewed that was like, oh my God, this person is so cool?
Yeah, I think that I guess it depends on what you mean by cool. So if cool would be defined by who people think is cool, then I would say Jeremy Renner is a cool person, but he was not cool to me.
So is he a guy that you would say, oh, I met him once and he wasn't a nice guy?
I just think it was during a press junket. So they flew us all to LA, and it was like he was in a day full of just.
Was this the Hansel and Gretel movie you did?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Not you did, but you went to. Yeah.
I thought I was Gretel. No. So it was the press junket. So he probably had like 50 radio stations that just filtered through all day and probably asked him the same questions.
Yeah.
And I could just tell he didn't want to be there. It was hot. We were in a room with like 80 million lights. And so every question that I asked, he would just be like, oh. There's a video of it somewhere. I don't even know where it is. I don't even think I kept it because he was so annoyed.
Well, did you ever think, because like I know whenever I have interviewed people, I always make sure, and this is probably bad and they don't like this, but I'm like, I'm never going to ask what's on the paper. I might address it like, hey, you got a movie coming out, but I always have to say whether it was, someone from Chicago talk about food or someone from whatever. Did you think like, here's my chance to go off script? Or were you like, nope, I'm corporate mode. I got to read these questions.
Sometimes they're cool with that, but sometimes they're not. Like I remember we interviewed Gary Sinise once.
Okay.
And we interviewed what he was there for because he does a lot of stuff with troops. And for the last like 2 minutes of the interview, we wanted to do like rapid fire things like, what do you like on your pizza? Blah, 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 like, and he was like, he stopped it and he was like, that's not what I'm here for. And I was like, okay, bro.
It really weird. Like you just don't know sometimes because you might think they're here to promote something, but also I look at it from the standpoint of if they're doing so much. Now, let me ask you before I said, was he just doing the one thing or was he doing a round with a lot of people?
No, it was like a phone call because it was a show that he was doing in the Chicagoland area.
No, but I mean, like, were you the 30th one of these?
Or I don't know.
Probably
not.
I think that might have made the difference because I think when people are doing, like, to your point about Renner, the same thing over and over again. And it's like somebody goes, hey, what about this? Like, oh my God, no one's ever asked me about that, because it's different. But
one thing to act like you're bored, but like, to be like, that's not what I'm here for. In the middle of our interview, we were like, okay, cool.
Did you ask about Lieutenant Dan, or did you like
where's your leg?
Where's your leg?
Yeah.
You're like, listen, break a leg. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just kidding. I did a phone interview once with Gene Simmons, and he was really interesting. Like I thought that it was going to be much different than it was, but he was like really sharp and business savvy. They have like Kiss coffins and
of course he's the king of all merchandise. I'm surprised he's like, listen,
very well spoken.
Danielle, I will be cool with you, but I need your credit card number first because I've got to send you all of my lunch boxes.
He offered to lick my my elbow. Like it's a long story, but it was just so he was very he was very nice. And then but probably working at a smaller radio station, we didn't see a whole lot of like huge names come through, but even some of the nicest people were some of just like your mid-level musicians, like Mark McGrath from Sugar Ray was really, really nice. I remember he's like one of those guys that you could just have a conversation. He's totally weird looking, but like,
he's gotten
a lot of plastic surgery.
Yeah, he was like a good looking guy, I think, in the late 90s, and he just kind of he changed and all that a little bit.
I even feel bad saying that because he was so nice, and he's just one of those people that you could sit and have a cup of coffee or invite to a barbecue or whatever and just have a great conversation with. He was very accommodating, and so I guess it just depends on what kind of definition of cool.
Well, I think you summed it up there. I mean, a lot of it is people that, had a good experience. It was a good experience for you afterwards. Like, you know what? They're cool. If anyone asked me, like, they were great to me. So I think, was Mark McGrath in studio too?
Mark McGrath was at an event that I was at. So, and then I did a video interview with him. So
Okay.
it wasn't in the studio, but it was like an off-site interview.
So he wasn't at the corner of your 4-post bed. Is
No.
that the line?
I will say at that same event, you know the band from the 90s Lit?
Oh yeah, My Own Worst Enemies, the big song. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had that music video with Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
They were super cool and like very down to earth, and it's on YouTube somewhere, I think.
Uh-oh.
In a car. I was driving and they were all in a car with me, and we did carpool karaoke, and they were like playing little tiny instruments like Frozen, from the movie Frozen, and singing My Own Worst Enemy on these Frozen instruments.
I have to look that up.
And then I'll find it and I'll send you the link. And then when we were done, they were getting out of the car, and Jeremy, one of the brothers, was like, we don't have any alcohol for the alcohol that we need backstage. He was like, here's a list. Do you mind running to the store for us? And I was like, sure, that's fine. I have time. And he gave me like $250, and it was only like $50 worth of alcohol that they needed. And he was like, just keep the change. And I was like, sure. Nice. Great.
Well, you could have upgraded them with some of what they were asking for too, you know?
Yeah, just got him like the vodka that was called vodka.
Right. So now this one has little flakes of Danielle Tufano inside of it. Like, oh, that's why $300, you know?
Yeah, right.
You've always been in the I remember singing in the car. You would sing like the Lion King song. We were filming a thing, and you were singing those, like you were always in this car singing. It was one of your things. That was something I remember early on was you realized, I think, that radio could be much more. And so I think you took a liking to sort of why not do some video stuff? Why not do some other things? Because it's all about having fun and building your brand at the same time, you know? Mm-hmm. Well, Danielle, we've said it all, as they say. You are now currently, if someone needs your services now, it's no longer tuned to 95.9 in the Chicagoland area. Now it's, they got to fight City Hall. Like, how do they find you now in Aurora?
I mean, yeah, I do work for the city of Aurora in our economic development department, but you know, like, I don't know that people that are watching this are like, oh, I think I need to open a business.
Yeah, the correct answer is no, I have this job so people can't find me now.
Right. I will say, so the podcast that you referred to earlier where I had never seen an episode of Star Wars, so it was called the You Better Watch It podcast. It was with my friend Emma, who also is a former radio. You should have her on. She's wonderful.
I'd love to talk to her.
Yeah, she and I did it together, and because we noticed that I have never seen like any movie ever. I'm not a movie person. And so she really likes Star Wars, and I had never seen it, which is weird. And so we watched, episodes 4, 5, and 6. And we kind of did 3 episodes of this podcast of my experience at the time of being, I think I was 38, watching Star Wars for the first time. And she kind of guided me through this. And so we had talked about taking trilogies, famous trilogies, and that continuing the podcast, but it's been like, I don't know, a year and a half, and we've been talking about firing it back up and doing like maybe Indiana Jones or Kill Bill or like different movies that we can find trilogies on.
Yeah, right.
So if anybody wants to do anything to help me, maybe contact Emma Rimza and tell her that we should start back up the You Better Watch It podcast.
Okay.
I'm ready.
It's a good concept. People do that all the time on YouTube, like the first time someone watches or hears something. Like a big one is always like guys that are more like hip hop oriented music, listening to heavy metal for the first time, like, okay, I like this. Or like an opera singer hearing something, Metallica for the first time, like, oh, I like what they don't talk in opera. I don't know why I said that, but Enter Sandman. Yeah, they don't talk like that. But that's a big thing, is people's first time into like reaction things. So I think that'd be good. So I would say, in a weird way, this is your first comic book, so I got a little reaction.
Look at that. Look at that.
Well, Danielle, thanks so much. I'm going to say your sticker is going to be in the mail. I'm going to send this one out directly to you, so you're going to get a sticker.
Light in here.
That's all right. Anyone watching, you made it through, if you want to get a comics.fm mug, you can get that, or a shirt like this. Comics.fm. That is the website. It's not just a clever name. People think, is that just the name? No, it actually works. Put it in there, and you can follow on all the social medias. Clips from Danielle will be all over, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We're going to put it up everywhere. Make sure to watch the whole
Grindr.
episode, all of them, Grindr, whatever, all of them on there. If you want to send her love letters, ask for feet pics, whatever, you can do that. I'm sure they're already out there. And yeah, otherwise, Danielle, thanks for being on comics.fm.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.